Hello YouTubers, you are watching Just Do It Yourself channel, and today we have 2012 Lincoln MKX, and we will be replacing power steering rack and pinion. So the vehicle is nice and high on the 4 jack stands. Front jack stands are offset to the back, so we have lots of room. Just a spoiler, we will be dropping down the subframe, so that's why we want it to be high and jack stands to be away. Another thing that we want to do right away is actually lock your power steering wheel. The main purpose is we want it to be straight when we remove the old rack and pinion and when we put the new one back in. So just use the belts. So to start the procedure and to make it less painful, it's painful enough, we will get the reservoir removed. There are two 10 mil bolts, one here, there's one over there, and we will try to lift it up, get all the fluid out of it, and then hook up the transfer pump to the return hose to remove all the fluid from the rack and pinion and the system in general. So we'll get those two 10 mil nuts removed, and I will leave links to parts and tools in the description to the video, so you will have a good starting point if you decided to do this. So let's see if we can lift that reservoir up. It doesn't want to go up because of the coolant reservoir. I think that's good enough as long as we can access the return hose, and we can, so we should be good. So let's see. The reason why we're replacing this rack and pinion, it is leaking, so we will be changing fluid, washing the reservoir, replacing rack and pinion. Let me get my transfer pump. Alright, my pump is connected, so we're pumping out of the reservoir to this jug. I'll just start the pump. And the fluid is quite nice color, so I can assume that the rack and pinion have been leaking for a while, so they have changed the fluid, because usually it would be much darker if it's old fluid. So the idea is to suck as much fluid as we can out of the reservoir before we disconnect it. I think we're quite good. Alright, so next we will remove the return hose from the reservoir. So I have put the rag underneath because there will be a little bit of fluid coming out. So now I will just pull this hose out, and this time we will connect our suction line to that hose. We will start the pump. So this will get the fluid from entire system. One piece that will be left with the old fluid is rack and pinion, and if we wanna get the fluid out, we will need to spin the wheels to the left and to the right, and that will push all the fluid out. So I might actually get the seat belt off the steering wheel, turn it left and right, get the fluid out, and then strap it back down. So the pump started to suck air, so I will go inside the cab and we'll turn the steering wheel to the right and to the left, and that will push a little bit more fluid. So we'll just go slow, and if you don't have a pump and still want to get majority of the fluid out, you can just put that return hose into a can and start spinning steering wheel left and right. In that case, your rack and pinion will be acting as the positive displacement pump. So I went all the way to the right. Now we'll go all the way to the left, and that should get rid of the majority of all the fluid. While the pump is still getting last few droplets, I will go ahead and disconnect the supply hose at the reservoir, as we want to wash that reservoir, make sure that it's clean inside. Reservoir is off, so now I'll just nicely clean it with the brake clean inside out. Alright, so the reservoir is clean, though just by looking through the supply line, seems like this one actually has like a cartridge filter inside, not that screen type. So probably would be a good idea to replace the reservoir if you're doing a job like this. I'm not gonna do that since I don't have the part, but one thing to consider. Usually those reservoirs are not that expensive. So some of them just have a screen inside, so with some brake clean and compressed air you can get them, I would say, even 100% clean. Alright, so since our system is empty now, I will just disconnect our pump. I will actually go ahead and attach the return line so we don't forget. Similar procedure would be if you changing the fluid. So this way you suck all the fluid out, and then while the pump is pumping, you just start filling the fresh fluid in. So in that case, you're kind of creating a vacuum on the pump side, so the bleeding procedure kind of is done right away while you fill it with fluid. So basically you pump and you keep adding fresh fluid until you see nice bright red stream going through. Alright, next I will go ahead and remove the wheels. That's 19mm socket. Using 1/2-inch electrical impact or battery powered impact and test the tool. We'll leave the link in the description. Worth every penny. 1500 foot-pounds torque for loosening the bolts and nuts. So that is done. You can see new brakes right away. Alright, while we're on this side, and I'm performing the same tasks on the other side, I don't believe there is a point of filming it. So we will disconnect the tie rod and a lower bow joint. There is no upper, so we can just say ball joint, so we'll just clean it, and we will be replacing the tie rods together with the rack and pinion. We'll get new one, since those are quite old and loose already. Plus, you don't wanna get into a situation where you do your rack and pinion, do your wheel alignment, and then a few months later you need to do your tie rods. So we will get that tie rod off. 17 is too small. It's 18 mil. Still using the same impact. So we will keep the tie rod in for now. Next we will remove the ball joint bolt. Just over here. Hopefully you can see it. So that seems like probably closer to 17 mil. 17 is too big. 15. 15 indeed. So that bolt is 15 mil. Right, so on the other side, just holding with 13 mil wrench. So that knot came out quite easily. Just need to push that bolt out. I might just need, oh, actually it's coming out quite nicely. So this is the bolt. Okay, in order to free up lower control arm, we'll need to remove this sway bar link. Same procedure, clean it, spray it. Okay, so we're using 18 mil wrench to hold from one side and 18 mil socket to get the knot off. So those seems like Moog aftermarket sway bar links. If you still have original one, it might be different design, so you might need to check to make sure that you can actually get that knot off, because in many cases you would need to cut it off, and in that case you would need a new sway bar link for that reason. So might be a good idea to get the new one just in case. Okay, if you spin your wheels to the right, on the right hand side, you should be able to remove that sway bar link, and you see they are quite new. And same on the left hand side, we just spin it all the way to the left and remove this link. Okay, next we'll get this tie rod loose, and you want to put your knot on a thread just to get it started so you don't damage it in case you miss. And like in our case, we'll be replacing tie rod, but it not always be the case. So now just a few good slams and this should drop. Just like that. We'll still keep it attached, and we will do the same on the other side. Right, next we will use a chisel, and we will put it in this gap just to spread it out a bit so the ball joint gets loose. So now we can push that ball joint together with control arm down. Normally, if you're replacing the ball joint or replacing the control arm, you can use those forks to separate it. But in our case, we are keeping that ball joint, at least for now. So we'll just hammer it down. And boom. This is done. And this ball joint is like the rubber boot is getting old, but the ball joint is still quite good. Alright, so now the fun part. We need to remove a bunch of parts from underneath, and you can start wherever you want. Doesn't really matter. I think I will start with the exhaust, so we need to remove 1, 2, 3, and 4 nuts. They're quite rusted, so hopefully we can get them out, as well as we will need to remove later on this from a hanger. So we'll just put some WD-40 inside and try to pry it out, one side and the other side. Alright, so exhaust is down. I just used tire to support it in the middle, so we're not stretching the rear end too much. So next we will go ahead and remove this aluminum shield. Just 2 10mm nuts, one at the top, one at the bottom. Alright, so next we'll remove this bolt that holds the engine mount. Also we'll go ahead and remove this bolt, the same on the other side, 1 and 2, and all of them are 15mm. Right, so next we need to remove this plastic shield. The reason for that, the few brackets behind that hold the hydraulic line. So we need to take a few more. So here is one bracket, 10mm, and further down there is another one. So we'll get those removed. Okay, so that bracket is removed. So now here is one more that we need to remove to get our subframe free. Alright, next we'll go ahead and remove this 10mm bolt that holds the steering wheel shaft to the rack and pinion. And I believe it's also 10mm. Yeah, seems like it's 10. Alright, so that bolt is removed. So next there are 1, 2, 3 more clamps that hold this return line to the subframe. But now when I think about it, so there's 1, 2, 3 more, and we already removed those two. And at the end of the day, that just return hose that goes up to the reservoir that we already had it off in one point. So to be perfectly honest, I think it makes sense just disattach it from the reservoir and drop this hose together with the subframe. That's what I will do. Alright, I got this hose disconnected, and it seems like there is a plastic bracket that goes into the frame, but it's already kind of disengaged, so I will just push it down. We will try to get that hose from here. I need to drop the phone. Alright, so here's the hose, and apparently you don't need to remove this bracket and that bracket over there. This hose will come up down with the frame. Right, so next I would actually like to try to see if I can push that piece up. Seems like it is going. Perfect. So we might need to get the rack and pinion. We don't need. So it actually came off all the way. So that's good. So next we'll remove this 18mm bolt that holds the high pressure line. You might get a few droplets of fluid. So for this, ratchet with a couple extensions works really well. We'll just get that removed. Right, so this bolt is removed. There is copper washer, don't lose it. And there were literally a few droplets of fluid, not much at all. So all the pumping paid off at the end of the day. So now we should be able to pull that line away. And there was one more washer. It just fall off. So make sure to reinstall it. But at this point, I'm pretty sure that I missed something, but I think we can start lowering our subframe. Okay, so for the subframe itself, we have one nut over here, then one over here, as well as there is one more over here, just above the sway bar link. And we can push this link up, so it's disengaged now. We can actually go through this hole with the impact, which is nice. So we'll slowly start. We can probably fully remove those two on both sides, and then slowly start lowering the front and the rear one. Alright, so this one in the middle is removed. One last thing that I forgot, we need to remove our tie rods. So just a matter of pulling them down. Okay, so all 4 bolts are loose now. So it seems like it's all suspended now. I don't see anything be touching anywhere or hanging or holding it. So at this point, that is disconnected. This hose comes with it. I think I will just. So another thing I guess to consider is that, like, this piece of the subframe at the front, it's kind of inside the bumper on this side. So we will need to lower the rear, let it down, and then push it back before we drop the front all the way. Alright, so I have jack holding the rear side, so I will remove the rear bolts completely and let it sit on the jack. Alright, so right now it's sitting on the jack stand and one nut at the top, so I will remove the last nut at the front. Try to hold it with my knee. See how it goes. Okay. So at this point I will start to lowering the jack a bit. Oops. It probably is. Go a little bit more. At this point, just probably go and check if anything holds it. Right, to be perfectly honest, it looks really good. I don't see anything attached that we might have forgot. So we'll just keep dropping it. Okay, this bumper is kind of holding me. So it's all freed up at the bottom, at the back. So I think I just need to get it down a bit more and push it back, just like that. It's probably a good idea to have a buddy when you're doing something like this. Oh, okay, I think we're good. So here's the frame. The front is very light, so that I'm quite comfortable holding it with my knee. Alright, I'm really surprised that I didn't forget to disconnect something. But it's off. It's a win. Okay, now quick look from the top. So those were the brackets that I talked. So initially said to remove those two. Just forget about it. Just remove your hose from the reservoir and all this piece will come off altogether. So there's a 1, 2, 3, and then this that you would theoretically need to remove while it's under the vehicle. What will be tough? So it's much easier just to remove that end from the reservoir. So now we have access to 1, 2, 3, 4 main bolts to remove the rack and pinion. Obviously we'll need to remove the hose, the shield, transfer all the connectors that we will need. It's a really good progress. So far it took me 2 hours to drop it. Here is the new rack and pinion, so just take a quick look what we need to transfer. So it seems like we'll need to transfer this connector that goes to the return hose. Obviously the hose with all the clamps. We need to transfer this shield, aluminum shield, and that will be pretty much it. So we'll start with that. We'll get it after that removed and new rack and pinion in. Next we'll get this orifices off. It's 17 mil. So this is the new rack and pinion, doesn't have it. Got it cleaned. Next I will go ahead and replace this O-ring at the end. Right, so the new O-ring is installed and it was provided with the new rack and pinion. We'll just get that in and we'll get it tight with 17 mil. Okay, so we will remove the old rack and pinion 15 mil bolts. 1. For that one we'll need extension. So let's get those bolts. Always blue Loctite on those. Okay, nice. Hold on. Alright, so I have cleaned up the frame. You want to make sure that those surfaces where the rack and pinion gets attached are clean. Just place it. All the bolts got cleaned with the wire wheel and blue Loctite applied. Let's get those started. So now we'll torque it to 80 foot-pounds. Next I will attach this hose back. As well as we'll install those 3 brackets back on. 1, 2, and 3 just behind the shield. And we'll actually do the rest of the bolts too, so don't forget. If you watch this video before I do the job, you would know that there is no need to remove those. As long as you disconnect the hose from the reservoir. Good. Another thing that I've noticed, what was kind of unpleasant surprise, you can see that this rack and pinion seems like it expanded all the way to the right versus being centered. So securing our wheel in a central steering wheel in a central position is not too helpful at this point. So we will need to play around and see how we can get it centered when we connect the steering wheel shaft to the rack and pinion. Alright, so our rack and pinion together with the subframe is ready to go in. We'll take a quick look how it's going. So I got the top just started and the rear is still on a jack stand. Still doing it all by myself, so it's quite manageable. If you go slowly, then we'll keep those loose and we'll push the back up. You can see that that end is going directly where it's supposed to go. So we'll just keep pushing up until it hits the frame. Okay, so the subframe is hanging on a frame with 4 bolts. Just started. Before I go all the way up, I will attach the high pressure line. So I'll make sure that I don't have new washers supplied with the rack and pinion, those copper washers. So I'll check if I have a new one. If not, we'll just reuse the old one. So right now there is a little bit more room to work on it, so we'll get this attached. Alright, so we're ready to install it. 2 copper washers on each side of the hose. We'll get it started. I unfortunately do not know the torque specs for this bolt, but definitely you don't want to over torque it and break it inside. So I would recommend just use your feel and check when it's done. It's better to give it another crank rather than break it. Alright, so next I'll go ahead and get all those 6 main nuts that hold the subframe tight. Right, so now when all the bolts are snug, or nuts are snug, we will torque them to 100 foot-pound. So I made one mistake. I rushed to get this nut tight, but we need to install the plate first. Back this off. Get the plate. It goes this way. And get this started. So now when the wheel is straight and all the steering components are installed, we will try to connect that steering wheel shaft to the rack and pinion. Okay, I had to move those wheels a bit just to make sure that that groove on the rack and pinion lines up with the hole where the bolt's supposed to go. So now we'll just try to get that in. It actually went really smooth. So now we'll just go ahead and install that 10mm bolt. So the reason why you want your steering wheel to be fixed in a straight position from the very beginning is mostly because of the clock spring that is inside the steering wheel, that is designed to turn to the right and to the left some certain amount of turns. So if you install it improperly, you most likely will damage it after that. Alright, so everything is done underneath. So right now I installed the reservoir, connected the return hose, and we'll fill in the fluid. The recommended fluid is Mercon 5 for this application. So I'm using Castrol, and we'll just fill it in. We'll start spinning steering wheel back and forth to get the air out. We'll run the engine to get more air out, and that should be it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. As always, just do it yourself.